All right, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for our live audience for tuning in, or our Facebook live audience for tuning in, and Instagram, and for our in-person audience.
Yay.
Thank you so much for coming.
So glad you're here.
I'm Leah.
And I'm Megan. And today we're making maple walnut scones. So they're really yummy and they smell very mapley, so you guys will be able to smell. And you'll be able to taste at the end. We have samples for you.
Yeah.
So we'll get started.
This is the cookbook we're using today. It's called Magnolia Table.
It's from Joanna Gaines, who has the popular TV show Fixer Upper and all the Magnolia like brand stuff that
Sold
you can
at Target.
Yeah, you can get it at Target or lots of places.
Yes. And then this is what we're making today, the maple walnut scones. So, just a typical scone, and then the top is like a maple icing as well that we'll put on, and we'll show you how to do all of that today as well.
Yeah. So. Has anyone had a scone before? Scones. Okay, yes. A few people.
Some people. All right.
So they're pretty yummy. Sometimes I worry that they're dry. So we can tell you that we've tried these, and they're not, I don't think they're super dry. Like scones are kind of a drier pastry, but
sometimes when you bite into it, it just like dries out your whole mouth. And I don't feel like that happened with these.
But these are more like crumbly and kind of flaky in a good way.
Yeah. So I think they're pretty good.
Yeah.
So.
You guys will be the judge though. You'll tell us.
So if you were to cook them at home, these ones do bake at 375. Hi, come on in. But we're gonna go ahead and get started, and we're obviously not baking anything today, but we'll just kind of walk you through the instructions and how to do it. So Megan is going to mix up all of our dry ingredients.
Yeah, and I want to say first, before you do all that, if you were baking these at home, you would roast your nuts. So we have walnuts, and we just chop them so they're really fine, and then you put them on a baking sheet and just spread them out, and you bake them at 375 for like 10 minutes.
8 to 10 minutes, yep.
And you just want them to be toasty, and so we did that yesterday, and so these are our toasted walnuts, and we're gonna mix those into our batter. But you would do that first, so just keep that in mind. But to do our dry ingredients, we are going to start with some flour, and then we also are gonna have sugar, and we're gonna add, what else? The butter, and then baking powder and salt. So I'm gonna start measuring that out, and Leah's gonna tell you a little bit about the butter.
So we're going to be adding butter to this after we get all of the dry ingredients mixed together. Something that's kind of interesting is that the butter in a scone or a pastry like this is usually very important. And it's very important that the butter is very cold. And then it's also going to have us cut it into like little cubes, so they're very small pieces. Another thing that we've done here when we made biscuits before, you can grate it, which is an interesting idea, and also is the same idea. But today we're just kind of going to cut it into little cubes. So we're going to do 6 tablespoons of that. While I'm getting that, Megan is just mixing up that, of course.
Yeah, so I'm just mixing this up, and so she said we're using cold butter, and I think that's kind of the secret to making it have like a crispy, flaky texture, because like the biscuits also use cold butter. So that's something that makes a difference that, I don't know, you just have to kind of think about.
Yeah, and you can't really if you're gonna shortcut in a recipe, that's probably not something you want to do for this one.
And some recipes want you to have room temperature butter or melted butter, and so this is kind of just what makes these extra good. So I added my flour and sugar, and now I'm gonna add some baking powder, 1 tablespoon, and then a little salt.
So these are just turning into small little cubes. You can see they're not real big at all, but then they'll mix in nicely when we're ready for that into the dry ingredients.
Okay, so I'm just going to mix that together a little bit, and then Leah's gonna add that butter in here. And like a lot of like baking recipes, we have like everything separated. So we start with like our dry ingredients, and then we have our wet ingredients, and we're gonna combine it all to make a dough. So
good.
I'm ready.
Do we do the walnuts now or after the butter goes in?
We do
After
it now,
butter.
I think.
The walnuts.
add butter.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll put the butter in first, and then after we get those butter all mixed in, then we'll add our walnuts at the end. But the cookbook tells us that we can either mix it with a pastry cutter, which is this nice little tool. Basically what this does is it's just gonna go in and kind of chop up the
Do you want to
butter.
use it?
Yeah, we can do it. Basically, it's just gonna literally cut the butter into smaller pieces like that.
So it's really well combined.
Yeah.
Which, like Leo was saying, how you could grate it, it's kind of the same principle.
Yeah.
So.
And that's gonna kind of do this. It also says you can use your hands, which we'll probably finish up with just because I feel like it's a little bit easier to use your hands almost because it just doesn't quite, I don't know. I think it's more fun. I guess that's the real reason.
And you want to make sure it's all combined, and when you get your hands in there, you can tell, find all the butter.
And sometimes it kind of sticks to these, so I kind of feel like it might be even more beneficial to just use your hands.
If you want to get messy, this is good.
Do you want to mix it?
I don't. No, I'm just kidding. I do.
I know you want to mix it. All right. While she's finishing that up, I'm going to go ahead and start with the wet ingredients, which is going to be egg, heavy cream, maple extract, and vanilla extract, which technically we're not using extract today. We're just going to use flavorings, which is basically the same. It can be interchanged one for another. The extracts are a little bit more expensive, so if you're trying to budget, that's one thing you can do is just use the flavorings instead of the extract.
And I think the flavoring was easier for us to find because
we could not find the maple extract hardly.
So either one works.
So we're just going to do one egg into there.
And we want the texture of this to be kind of crumbly with the butter. So I'm just kind of crumbling it all up and waiting for that texture to be throughout.
All right, and then we're going to use 1/3 cup of heavy cream. We'll just get that in there.
Okay.
And then we'll go ahead and add in our maple and vanilla, which is going to be a teaspoon of each.
And I'm going to put the walnuts into my batter now that it's all combined, and I'm going to mix that around too.
Now this maple flavoring is very interesting. I think something that's different about it versus the vanilla, the maple extract is that this is going to be colored, which then changed. You'll see when you get your sample, our icing was actually like a brown color, so it actually changed the color versus our picture here was a very white icing. So I think that's a big difference that actually has, and you'll see it when it comes out. It's very colorful.
But it tastes good. It tastes very mapley. And I think it reminds me of like a maple bar, like a donut. It tastes like the maple like icing on a donut, I think. So it's really good. And it looks like that too, I feel like. So.
And then as I start to mix this up, you'll get to see that it's going to totally change the whole color of that. So it definitely makes a big difference in color-wise, which is kind of fun. Once it looked like she said, like those maple long johns. It like tasted almost exactly the same once we get it all together. So we'll mix that in.
Okay, so this is what the dry ingredients look like with all those walnuts in there, and it's ready for our wet ingredients.
Okay. And then once that's nice and mixed up perfectly, you can see there, then we'll just pour it right into here.
And this is going to kind of make it more like a dough texture.
Okay. And then this part we will mix with our hands again because you could do it with the spatula, but I found it was way easier to get it fully combined when I use my hands versus the spatula. It just didn't work out as good. So we'll just mix that up.
And we decided that we were making this recipe in honor of the Queen because they're scones, and we didn't even plan it. We planned to do this like a month ago. So It's for the queen.
And I don't know if anybody else knew this, but I guess the queen ate a scone every day. It was a scone, right?
I think
that
so.
She ate every day. A what? Oh, yes, a jam sandwich.
Oh.
But a lot of times they eat those on scones. So I think that was the case with that one.
Yeah, you can put different stuff on your scone too. I don't think these scones need it because they have the really yummy icing, but if it didn't have like an icing on it, you could put butter, you could put jelly, you could put, I don't know, anything you want probably.
Yeah.
Fruit. So
Lots of things. And these ones are super flavorful with like the nuts and everything in it. You really don't even need it, even with the icing or without it.
And I think it would taste good dipped in coffee or with tea. So no matter what, they're good as a breakfast, a dessert, a snack, any time of day.
Something interesting that I read is that scones actually date back to 1513, the year 1513, which is a long time ago. Like, that's probably one of the oldest recipes you could find. So that was kind of interesting to me because they're historic. Okay. So this is just going to mix until it's all completely mixed, so you don't see any more residue of the flour, which we're just about there.
And then after that, we're gonna roll it out and cut it and put it on our baking sheet. So we just lined our baking sheet with parchment paper, and you can use the same parchment paper that you put on it for the nuts, which is kind of cool that it said roast the nuts, put them to the side, and then you can just put your dough straight on here. So that saves you a little time right there.
Okay. And then what we do with this, and you can take it, like she said, we're just going to do it right on here with the parchment paper, but what you can do is you can flour your surface and just do it on the countertop if that's a little bit easier for you or whatever. And then what this suggests to do is we're going to just put it here, and then we're just going to press it down, so in a round circle. So it's about, well, it says 2 inches, but we did ours a little bit because we do sample sizes, so we do them all, everything a little bit smaller. And so we did ours a little bit smaller, and they baked totally normal. So you can really do them whatever size you want.
And scones are kind of thick pastries, if you've seen them before. So like making them a couple inches is reasonable, but they do puff up, so keep that in mind.
Yes. So if you kind of just do it to like, kind of like that, if you can kind of see how that is. That is perfect. And then we'll go ahead, and I just used the pizza cutter because I found it was really easy to do that, but you could easily use just a knife or whatever way you like to do it. And then the way that they suggest is to do it in kind of like you're doing a pizza anyway, so do it like that.
And it's supposed to make about 8, but it depends on how like big or small you want them to be. So
if you just do that.
the people who said they've tried scones before, what flavor of scones have you tried? Right, just plain?
Starbucks sells them there, like in different flavors. Blueberry or
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like dried fruit. Yeah, that's really yummy to put in these.
Panera Bread has an orange flavor that is really good, honestly, and theirs is like very yummy. I like theirs.
Yeah.
Oh,
Ooh,
yeah.
orange cranberry.
That's good.
That sounds good.
Once you do that, they
Chocolate
literally will
chip,
just pick up, and you can move them. It says to keep about 2 inches between, and so you want to just move them around so they're not touching on your baking sheet. And that did get us about 8 at that size. So then you can just do that, and then you bake them for like 15 to 20 minutes. And this was an interesting thing about baking these, is it just said to bake them until the bottoms are like a light brown. And we found when we made them, the tops don't really color that much. So keep baking them until the tops turn colors, otherwise they'll be overdone.
And we did just that. Like we just kind of lifted them and checked, and the bottom was a little bit brown, so we were like, okay, they're done.
I think on one of ours, maybe like the side got a little bit brown, which would be fine, but just keep that in mind.
And you don't want them to dry out because, like we said, they're already kind of a dry pastry, so we don't want to bake them too long. So
Yeah. So then that's it. Once you bake them, then you can pull them out. Of course, you let them cool. It does suggest that you let them cool for 5 minutes and then move them onto like a cooling rack. And then
once they're fully cooled, then you can put on the icing, which we're going to do next.
I'll take that.
But this shows you kind of what they look like. This is the baked ones that we're going to ice, and this is what they look like going into the oven. So
they kind of seem the same size right now, but these are post-baked, so these ones will get much bigger.
They'll puff
so
up
if you
more.
want them this size, you're going to want to make these about half the size, or at least like a quarter
like
less.
a little smaller one, yeah.
So.
Whoa, Leah, great
Wow,
job.
Megan.
Okay, so we're gonna do our glaze, and this is kind of just a typical, if you've ever made like a glaze before, you're gonna use powdered sugar and whipping cream, and then we're gonna put a little more of that maple extract in to give it a yummy mapley flavor. So we're gonna do half a cup.
Oh, I'm
excuse
sorry,
me.
I took your...
Thank you, ma'am.
My bad.
Half a cup here. And then 2 tablespoons of heavy cream.
So 1 and 2.
And then
or a little extra.
a quarter teaspoon of the maple extract, because a little is going to go a long ways. So, sorry, Leah.
Messy here. I think that one.
Okay.
I think that's that one. Quarter?
Huh?
Yeah. Oh, that's half.
Oh, no! Okay. And then we'll mix that together.
Oh.
You don't use your fingers.
The one time we don't, yeah.
You're right.
That's extra messy.
We don't really want to use our fingers on this one because it's too messy.
Yeah, the powdered sugar gets
It would
everywhere.
just drizzle out of your fingers.
Okay. So you can already tell it's going to turn kind of a brown mapley color, which is fun. And I was going to say, if you don't want to use walnuts, you could use another nut. I have a friend who, he's doing keto, and so he has to eat nuts a lot, and he hates walnuts. For some reason, he just really hates them. And so I tried to feed him one of these, and I was like, they have dreaded walnuts in them. So if you wanted to change to pecans,
I thought almonds would be really
Almonds
good.
would be really
because
good.
then I feel like you could take some of the almond shavings and put them on top with the icing.
That would be
and
yummy.
I thought they would look really pretty that way.
Yeah.
Ooh,
that would be
really
good.
good. Macadamia nut, and then maybe instead of the maple, you could even do a different flavor instead of maple. I think would be really yummy. You could try and mimic like a white chocolate macadamia
Ooh.
nut, which would be really good.
That would be fun. We had one of our audience members in the back said chocolate chip scones
yes,
was a
chocolate
favorite. So you could even put chocolate chips in this if you wanted to. So
That would be good.
this is what our glaze looks like, just like a donut, huh?
Can you guys smell the maple?
No?
Oh,
Okay.
If you got up and walked by, you probably could.
Yeah, well, when you come up here to get your sample, we'll have you smell it because it's really strong, but in a good way. It tastes very good. So once they're fully cooled, it says to let them cool for 30 minutes because you don't want to melt your glaze. But once they cool, you just drizzle it on. And some people probably are really good at drizzling this, but it's just kind of...
And some people are really bad.
No.
So if you get a sample,
I don't think...
he wants you to use your fingers. To
No, my fingers. I think you can't go wrong, though, because no matter what,
If you really
you want a lot of icing,
and if you
right?
really love icing, you could literally just take it and dunk it, and then you would have a fully glazed top, which would be good.
Or a half. You could do half
yeah,
of it,
yeah, yeah.
which would be fun.
That would be yummy.
So anyway, and then you're going to want them to cool a little bit so the glaze will harden, and then they're all set to go. So this is the finished product. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say if you take them for a party or somewhere, definitely glaze them ahead of time so that they won't get too messy on your way. So.
And we did some of ours yesterday on our cooling rack. We glazed them, and that worked really well because then all the excess glaze like went down on the bottom and didn't stay like in the container or something you're taking them in. So that was kind of a good idea. But yeah.
So that's it. Did we have any questions?
We love answering questions.
Okay. Oh,
The glaze,
yeah.
Ziploc bag.
That's true.
That's a good tip. That
could
would
do that.
definitely do it.
It would
That
be
would-
not quite as messy too.
That's true.
Yeah, not
No.
that much fun.
Yeah.
It does harden up. It's honestly like a donut, I feel like. Like if you like touch it, it's still kind of like, you know, like the underside of it is still soft, but the very top layer of it
kind
does slightly harden.
Gets a hard
Yeah, a
shell.
little
Yeah,
shell.
exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So easy to transport.
Yeah.
I kind of missed the measurements on the.
Oh. You can copy it right out of the book if you want to when we're completely done. If you want to come look, you
Yeah.
can do that. So
And you'll have to, if you make them, you'll have to show us.
Yes.
Because we would love to see.
tell us how they are. Yeah.
And I was gonna say, we keep saying scones are kind of dry, but if you have the icing, it makes it really good.
Yeah.
Like if they didn't have the icing, they would still be good, but the icing just
Does a
really
lot. It
adds a lot to it.
to 'em, yes.
So
Agreed.
we're excited for you guys to try them. So if you want to come up and get a sample,
Yes. Come on up. We got them right here.
and if you have more questions, feel free to ask us.
And all the ingredients are labeled on the bag, so if you have any health concerns, you can definitely view it there. So
yeah.
come on up. You guys can come grab some.